All right, recording is started. Okay, do we want to move on to the next slide? All right, so again, everybody, welcome. We will be doing a platform discussion. Matt's going to go ahead and lead us through several just discussion points, and we'll be doing some polling as well. So we're looking forward to this being an interactive session and getting people's feedback. At the end, we'll just briefly mention our next meeting. I think the topic is still TBD, but we can give you some dates and keep you posted as to when we will be doing that. And then we will also turn things over to questions where we sort of open the floor. Just so you know, we do turn off the recording during the question session. So if you have any discomfort with thinking you're going to be recorded, don't worry. We will, the floor will be yours and you can ask whatever questions you want. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll turn it over to Matt.
All right. Thanks very much, Laura. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat while we're talking, so I'm going to let you admit additional people if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
All right. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Matt Byers, and I am the chair of the Party Building Committee. I've been a member of Forward Maryland since its beginning. I'm one of the founding members, and one of the things I've always been interested in is how do we build this party bigger and stronger and competitive. And so they put me in charge of the platform or the party committee. Let's start off by talking about what tonight is and what it isn't. Tonight is really a big picture question for our party, not about specific policies or anything like that, but who we want to be going forward. And just to be really clear, this is a conversation, not a presentation. I do have some slides, but this is not me lecturing to you. We've had a bunch of those, or just information sessions and that kind of thing. But this, I really wanted to be interactive. I'll guide us, but I need your input. So one of the first questions I've been getting from people I meet on the street when we do the events and such is, what's your platform? And I know this word platform can be a trigger for some people, but it's the word they use. And so I have to respond to it in the way that they present it to me. And so, what's your platform? Our whole lives we've been sold this top-down thing, like right or wrong solutions. Has this helped you? I'm sure we all have our answers to that, but I'll keep my opinion to myself. What we're trying to do is start a discussion. How we are standing for something with a focus on election reform only. What we are standing for something with a focus on election reform right now, and is it time to stand for something more as well? So let's start by setting a baseline on which we all agree. So our mission, I'll just read it because it's pretty short. Maryland Forward Party, in association with the National Forward Party, will redefine political processes, supporting candidates and advocating for policies which collaboratively build a Maryland where we all want to live. So I want to point out two ideas here: redefining political processes and supporting candidates and policies collaboratively. And the second part, advocating for policies, is part of why we're having tonight's discussion. We also have a set of values and priorities. We can read through them here. I'm not going to read the whole slide, but I'll just summarize: better governance through bottom-up problem solving, protecting the rights of all people, more collaboration, less conflict. And then we have some priorities: ranked choice voting, all candidate primaries, independent redistricting commissions, vacancy reform, and community-driven issue development. So these are the values that guide how we operate, especially bottom-up problem solving and collaboration. And these priorities reflect where we're aligned, particularly around election reform. The open question, and what we're exploring tonight, is whether we expand beyond these priorities into broader policy areas. And if so, how? So again, I just want to be really clear. We're not here to debate or define or decide on specific policy positions. We're here to explore the idea of whether or not we should take policy positions, and if so, how. Our priorities lay the foundation for a new party, creating structural change, not to be feared as a spoiler, making the system actually work for us. And then there's the question of, do we focus on election reform? Do we focus on more than election reform? As a community up platform, we need to hear from you. What are the problems in your community? What matters most to you? So we'll be going through a series of 3 votes tonight. Each is independent but related. Obviously, some of the answers from one will influence the other, but we'll explore them to see if thoughts change as we go through the process. So even though, one might seem to preclude continuing on as we get the result, we're going to see if things change a little bit. What does success look like tonight? Not agreeing on everything. That is not part of success. It's a shared understanding of the trade-offs, hearing different perspectives, and getting clearer on where we want to go. This is the start of the process, not the end of the process. And I'm hoping at the end of this, you'll be excited by this whole idea and you'll want to do more with the party building committee, but we'll have more of that later. So the magic question, at its core, we're trying to answer this one question. Should we remain focused on election reform or evolve into a party that also takes positions on broader issues? Now, the thing is, there isn't a right or wrong about this. It's just about what direction everybody in the party feels we should take. So if you were in charge, what would you want to do? We'll get to discussion in a bit. I just want to introduce the options and then talk a little bit about them. And then we'll time box this with about 15 minutes worth of discussion afterwards. So generally, there's 3 paths we could take. One is to stay focused on election reform. That's been our foundation for a long time now. The other is becoming more of a traditional party that takes positions on issues people deal with every day. Both are valid, but they lead to very different futures. And the third is to move away from election reform and concentrate solely on policy. This would be a big change for us. Every approach has real trade-offs. If we stay focused on reform, we stay clear and nonpartisan, but we may struggle to connect with people on everyday issues. If we expand into policy, we become more relevant, but we also risk division and complexity. So it's not an easy decision, and it shouldn't be, which is why we're having this discussion. So it's easy to jump into what policies, but let's step back for a second. For the model of your choice, of the 3 we just talked about, and we'll go into some more detail on them in just a second. What makes the model important to you? What are the benefits to you? These are the questions I want you to consider before you vote. What are the trade-offs? And this can sort of influence your discussion later. I will steer us away from specific debates on specific issues tonight, so just everybody be prepared for that, because we're not going to talk about specific issues. We're talking about the overall focus of answering the question, should we even do this? Tonight's about direction, not decisions. So we'll go through the 3 choices, then we'll vote as a group. If you have an important comment, please raise your hand, or, and then we'll call on you, and then you can turn off your microphone. That way we're not all trying to speak at the same time. The chat option is also available. I want you to use that as much as you like. We'll be able to watch it. And if there's a lot of people that want to talk, that's sometimes faster. So we got 15 minutes for this. So let's go through the options. So if we only do election reform, then how do we help people understand we stand for something? Rally voters to care about election reform. Explain to others why we decided this. And how do we answer policy questions? Mm-hmm. If we do more than election reform, then how do we decide on what to focus on? How do we navigate varying perspectives? How do we support community up policy building? And how do we actually get stuff done? Because we can discuss all day and not come to a decision. So we have to have a decision-making process in there. If we move away from election reform entirely and we just try to compete as a normal party, you know, one of the existing major parties, how do we make inroads with that two-party system as it is? How do we decide what our policy should be? And really, are we any different from the existing party? So with that, I want to hear what everybody has to say about this, and I'll stop talking. Laura, you want to call them folks, and I'll keep an eye on the chat?
Yeah. Tyler looks to be first.
So I definitely would recommend option 2, because I believe we should keep our founding principles so people don't see us as like a flip-flopping party on issues. But we should also emphasize that we stand for more than just election reform. Because if we want to be a major permanent party that people see us not as a wasted vote, we should definitely like campaign on not specific party like policy issues, as you said, Mr. Byers, but like bringing people from multiple angles together and then talking it out within the party. I definitely think, though, we should focus more on just election reform so people see us as an actual contender, stuff like that. Like they feel comfortable with voting for us. And I would also recommend, like, 'cause since I didn't find any ballot access that we have in Maryland currently, I think we should at least start with like a game plan or a roadmap of how we're gonna like achieve ballot access in Maryland so that people can be enthusiastic about us, but also like, hey, we have this plan already in place so you can vote for us and stuff like that.
Cool. Thanks, Tyler. And just so everybody knows, Tyler's a neighbor of mine, which is why he calls me Mr. Byers, but that's okay. Let me ask you a follow-up question. You said focus on election reform, but you also said that you wanted to see policy. How extensive do you want that policy? How do we answer people if we're just focused on election reform? As to, they're going to ask questions about where do you stand on abortion, where do you stand on immigration, where do you stand on the debt, all sorts of things.
I definitely would answer them in a centrist way. Like, if for immigration, people ask me, well, what are you going to do about the border? Well, you could say, hey, we support like tougher border patrols and enforcement, but we also support.
Hang on. I'm going to cut you off. I said we're not doing actual policy positions tonight. I wanted to know how you wanted to go about establishing those policy positions. That's what I was.
We should have people together and establish a ground point. You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have got into specifics.
No, you're okay.
But we should like talk about how we should take things from both major parties and combine them together so that people can see we're not just taking just from one party. We're taking from both and combining them into a specific policy. Like you said, because if people ask us the debt, you said we should talk about the debt. We should take things what both parties are saying that we're going to do and maybe combine them into one policy. Sorry. And again, I apologize. Did not mean to mention a specific policy.
You're all right. Thank you, Tyler. Let's move on to, I think Bill's next, right?
Bill is next. Yep.
So I'm also voting for number 2. And I think the most important thing is that the Forward Party clearly differentiated itself as being different from the 2 established parties. And we have a reason for existing and trying to change things, electoral reform being a significant part of it. But I think trying to look a little more than that. So as opposed to specific policy, I'm thinking of a kind of high level of, if I had to do one thing there, it would be adherence to the Constitution. And the threats that we have to stand for adherence to the Constitution.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. Okay.
Thanks, Bill. Michael's up next.
There we go. Thank you. Well, I'm voting, so to speak, for election reform only for option one. And my reasons are that I think once we go into a policy, now, not necessarily at the level that Bill was talking about, but at any of the other policies that people would want to come up with, we're going to start having divisions. And we're too small a party to have divisions right now. I think we need to be a big tent. And I think that what we, in addition to election reform, what we have to offer and sell, if you will, is the quality of our candidates. You know, and as I've been on the candidates committee and interviewed with a bunch of our candidates who've sought endorsement, and looking for people who are collaborative, willing to work across the aisle, and who are down to earth and connected to their communities. I think that we're too young a party to have policy decisions about abortion or immigration or those kinds of things. I think election reform and quality of candidates is what we have to offer.
So follow-up question, how do you answer voters when they ask what our positions are on various things?
I think we say, talk to the candidates we've endorsed. They don't all support all of the same things on issues. I mean, I know that from, the candidates we've interviewed, that there are candidates who have different opinions about different issues in the state or locally. And so we don't say, we say our candidates are quality candidates, but they do differ. So you need to talk to the candidates about and see for you if they're in agreement with enough of your particular views.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know personally, I would find that a very unsatisfactory answer, but that's me.
Okay, so just a quick time check, because I know we're trying to time box this, because we've got Alan and then we've got Jeff.
Yep.
Okay, Alan?
Okay, thank you. So I strongly believe in establishing a viable third party. And I think that means, at least long-term, taking on both election reform and policy, but not if that will make us unfocused in the short term. So, and I'm new, I've been following the emails, but I really haven't been attending, these events. So maybe you could take a minute before we vote to speak to the effectiveness in terms of the electoral reform to help me understand what's been accomplished or what's in the immediate plans. Because at least for me, that would make it easier to say, is now the right time to take on both? But just from what I know so far, my concern would be it would make us too unfocused. And I'd like to see, moving the ball forward more on the election reform before taking on more things.
Sure. I can try to address that in 30 seconds or so. The truth of the matter is we haven't been terribly effective at the state level at all as far as election reform goes. We've made some strides with a couple of different local communities to get our local cities, I should say, to get RCV on the ballot and passed. That's ranked choice voting. But the rest of it has faced a lot of opposition from the two existing parties. I also personally feel like we're having a lot of difficulty just selling the election reform by itself. And that's because it's an intellectual thing, and politics is, in my opinion, emotional. And I don't think I don't think election reform is emotional. I don't know if that answers your question, but
that helps. It's probably a longer discussion, but in the interest of time, I'll stop there.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jeff? And then we got Bill with his hand up again.
Yeah, so there were a few things that occurred to me that sort of coalesced while I was tabling at Suebo Sunday. And that's that, yes, I obviously support us being in favor of, constitutional activity. That's, everything within the Constitution that I feel is a given. I think we're already operating in the policy space. And I believe we're going to continue to operate there in the same way. And it takes the weight off us from having specific policies unless they're supported very, very widely. We've always said that the politics in Baltimore City and the policy selections in Baltimore City are going to be very different, perhaps in some areas, from the policy selections on the Eastern Shore, perhaps, for example. And I believe what we're doing is that we're facilitating candidates in representing the policy choices of their constituents. And this is actually what really resonated very strongly with everybody I talked to, is that they were interested in having their representatives actually represent them in their legislative efforts. So, I mean, I would contend that we are already operating in policy, but we are not directly operating in policy, but we are facilitating the policy choices that are going to satisfy the constituents in any given legislative district. And this makes the entire system more responsive to voters' wants and needs, directly responsive to voters' wants and needs. And I do, of course, support everything we're doing on election reform. And you're right, it can be very dry, but that's why I sort of, went for the second talking point with people at Sowebo, that we're helping elect representatives that will represent you and your desires.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that was my position for a long time. My concern is that we're not attracting enough people to be interested in forward at the moment based on just that. And so we're ending up supporting candidates from existing parties rather than putting our own candidates forward. And that's part of my concern.
Okay, that's fair. It might attract more people if we had a position on certain things that they care about. I can see that.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Bill?
I think there's a chance we could put some emotion into election reform. We have a Congress with a 14% approval rate and a historical 94% reelection rate. How do we fix that? We need single primaries. We need ranked choice voting. We need ending gerrymandering. We need to clean house, and we need to break the stranglehold that duopoly has. And we've got to get to that level of emotion to get those people out of office and get people in there who listen to us and represent us and not the political party.
100% agree, Bill. I'm trying to figure out how to bring the people in. And that's as chair of the party building committee, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Steve is next. And then I think Steve will be last because we need to move on.
Yes.
All right, I'll try to be brief then. I agree with what a lot of the people were saying. What brought me in as someone who's interested in the Forward Party is the disillusionment with the other two parties, especially with the more extreme ways they've been going. And I think there's a vast majority of people that believe that, not just in Maryland, but across the country. I was on the Independent Voters of Maryland Zoom last night, and I think they just reached 1 million non-Democrats or Republicans in the counties or in the state. So it's a growing number who are more dissatisfied. So I think that number two on the what kind of party should we be would make most sense with some sort of policy platform. And again, not to be specific, but you have to have an answer for when people ask, "What do you guys believe?" or something like that. And I think the basic answer is, well, the dissatisfaction with extremes on either side is my rationale for why I'm interested. And I think maybe other people share that as well.
Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate you. JE has their hand up, but is it a quick comment? Because we were trying to close this section. Not sure who JE was. Are they gone?
Yeah, I just saw them log in and then I can't tell. Let me see. They may have just dropped.
Okay.
No, I still see them there. Okay. Oh, you put your hand down. Okay.
Okay. Can we go ahead and launch the poll so that we can get everybody's thoughts?
Sure. Let me go ahead and do that.
So,
So just,
basically, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, I am going to launch the poll. Everybody should be able to see the results as they're building, but your name's not going to be associated with anything. Okay. I'm sorry, Matt, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say, you're going to see the poll with the 3 options. So yeah, go ahead and make your choice. And JE, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but
Yes.
I didn't mean to cut you off, and certainly we want to hear from you as we move on.
I'm not seeing the poll.
It's up at the top that should say poll is live.
I see people voting, so I can tell it's already live, Bill. Because I think we've got about 13 people on, and I see 11 votes thus far. Thanks,
Cool.
JE. Okay. Bill, were you able to vote?
Yes, I found it. Thank you.
Okay, good.
All right.
Don't forget you've got yourself in twice. So
Yeah, so I'm in there twice and I already voted, so.
let's give it 15 more seconds and then we'll close the poll and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
If
And I've got
anybody's
a
having any issues, sorry. If anybody's having any issues with voting, please put something in the comments. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. Let's close that. And overwhelmingly, 10-1, we've agreed as a small group that we should have at least some sort of policy. All right. So, so the next question is, how? Really, what Maryland issues are most important to you? What would you want Maryland to take a stance on? What would you want Maryland Forward to take a stance on? Why or why not? How should we decide positions? How realistic is a true top-down platform for your issue? So the real, and we're not going to go into issues. So, we're thinking about your issue and how you would decide your issue in your own head. But, you can talk about these various things. The poll itself is going to be, should we explore taking positions? And the choices are going to be yes, no, or not yet. We need more discussion. One way potentially to decide upon a position stance is to use our values and our mission and other documents we've written along the way that tell us that we believe in thriving communities and free people and vibrant democracy and things like this. And where do those issues fall within those values, and the stance determined by those values? At least that's one thing one way I would use to determine the stance. But I'd like to know, just I put 15 minutes on here, but let's cut it down to 10, so that we have some time for questions at the end. What issues are important to you? Now we can talk about issues. And what would you want Maryland Forward to take a stance? Pick one issue per person. And how should we decide our position on that stance? Anybody got an issue they want to talk about? Now's a chance to actually talk about issues. Tyler.
So like specific issues?
Yeah, pick one issue and would you, what's most in Maryland, what's most important to you? Would you want Maryland Forward to take a stance? Why or why not? How should we decide that position?
Taxes. I think taxes is a very important issue. Like, should we tax more, tax less? I think you should decide that by seeing realistically how much are we taxed currently, and how much like would it benefit us to like, hey, we should actually tax you less because of this. And we should also look into how that would affect businesses and the general economy of the state of Maryland. I think that's how we should decide that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have JE. JE, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can hear you, yes.
All right. So I just want to I want to answer this question from two different dimensions, but keep it brief. The first dimension has to do with from the perspective of what makes something competitive, which is to say that, you're asking about what you want the platform is going to be taking a stance on, particularly one issue. I think part of what has to happen competitively is that I think that what the forward party is doing needs to be somewhat in conversation with what's already being put forward. There needs to be some sort of substantive alternative, which means being aware of what kind of positions are already being represented and what positions are not being represented. All right, so that's as to the competitive aspect. I think as it pertains to, if I were to choose just one point in terms of what the party could take a position on, I think it has to do with the long-term sustainability of the state. I think that that's one of the biggest problems going on with Maryland right now. I think that anybody that looks from the perspective of the credit risk and things of this nature, the state is not in the position of long-term growth. And I think that that is one of the biggest, and that's a hard sell because it's not as flashy as something immediate and AI, what have you. But I'm saying that I think that that's perhaps one of the most important issues.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have an issue they'd like to talk to us and how we should decide that position?
Bill?
I'd suggest as an issue that we have a dysfunctional Congress in Maryland, we have a dysfunctional legislature in Annapolis. We need to find a way to fix
it. That's pretty broad.
Yes, intentionally.
Okay.
And then Jeff,
Starts a conversation.
sorry, go ahead, Bill. Are you done, Bill? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just noticed that Jeff put something in the chat.
Yes, I'm done. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So Jeff submits that our threshold for supporting a specific position on a statewide issue should be fairly high to avoid alienating potential supporters in areas where there's a different balance of thought on a particular issue. Very nicely put, Jeff, and agreed. And anything that we take a position on should be well thought out. We are trying to appeal to the most number of voters, not take extreme positions like the two existing parties. So great. Anybody else have anything they want to share, or should I just take your temperature on the question? Alan?
Yeah, I don't know if you think it's redundant, but to me, some of the election reform issues like ranked choice voting, would be a key part of the platform, so I know that already is, but if you're going to say what should we be pursuing actively near the top of the list, that's one of them.
100%. And I had assumed that those were already on the list because, especially because this group itself overwhelmingly said we should do both election reform and. So I was looking to explore stuff beyond, not that that's not important. That's not what I'm trying to get at, but yes, absolutely. We need the election reform. I think we're all in agreement on that. All right. If there's nobody else that has a burning issue that they want to talk about at the moment, I want to move on to our second sort of temperature poll. Are we ready to develop a process for taking positions beyond election reform. And what I mean by that, like, is there interest within this group to start deciding that process of what issues and what positions we should take? What principles should guide us? Bottom-up input, limited scope, community-driven, not top-down, that kind of thing. But so what I'm really looking to get here is, are you guys ready to explore taking positions? Yes, no, or not yet, need more discussion. And I'm not saying how we'll take those positions or what those positions will be, but just like, are we ready to start this process? And Jay, I was going to launch the poll. Did you have something that you wanted to add before that? Nope, the poll is fine. Okay, great. So Laura, if you'd launch that second poll for me, that'd be great. Thank you. And for those of you going to the poll screen fresh, you'll probably just need to scroll down to see the second poll. We'll give it another minute for everybody to get their votes in. I'm looking at time and trying to move this along so that we don't run out of time. We had 11 last time. We're up to 9 right now. That's
10. Yep.
Oh, 10 votes. Sorry. I can't add my math. Anybody not voted? Okay, there's 11 votes. Anybody else? We'll do a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we'll close that one. And it looks like overwhelmingly 8-3 that we are ready to start taking those positions, developing a process, I should say, for taking those positions, which is great. I'm not sure what that means, but we'll figure that out in the near future. If we move forward with developing policy positions, which areas would you want to help shape? And here's some ideas. Individual rights, privacy, reproductive rights, etc. Economic issues, wages, affordability, budget falls into this, taxes falls into this. Healthcare, the environment, public safety, democracy and governance, and others. Lots of things that people want answers on as far as where forward stands on this, and I don't have those answers. So the I don't really want to go into which areas you'd like to deal with right now, but what I want to know is, how comfortable is everyone with the idea of expanding beyond election reform? What is your confidence / comfort level with what we've done tonight, and where it looks like the majority of people want to go? Are you very comfortable with where we are at the end of this discussion? Are you somewhat comfortable? Are you not comfortable? And before we launch that poll, if anybody wants to have a comment on anything we've done so far, I've got a couple of slides at the end, but no big deal. Any comments about how this discussion went? Michael.
So we've not really established how we're going to come up with this, how the process, how we're going to decide. I mean, I want to second whoever said earlier that it should be a very high threshold. But we don't, at this point, we're just saying, yes, we'd like to figure out a process by which the party might take positions on some issues.
That's correct. Yeah. It's been an internal discussion for a while now as to whether or not we should even go here, or we've all said that we should go tonight. And so I was trying to take everybody's temperature and understand if I was completely on my own, or if other people wanted to take positions beyond election reform. And before, we present anything about how to do it and any of that, I wanted to get that answer first.
JE, you have your hand up?
Can I just make 2 quick points?
Yes.
Okay. So just in furtherance of what you're saying. So from my position, I mean, I'm listening to what other people were saying. I think that something robust would be productive for this party. And I've reached out to someone about, I really think that I'm very hopeful that that the Forward Party will put forward a candidate to run for governor, which is only kind of tangentially related. But that being said, no, I think that what you're providing a couple of different options, but I think that the biggest fear I think that I can sort of sense so far is that there's a concern about, well, it's a fairly monopolistic political environment, but I do think that there is a road for this party to be able to nurture its own path politically, and I would encourage that that's what the party should do.
Cool. Thank you. And I'd love to see us put forward a candidate for governor, but I'm not sure how we could do that. So Bill put in a comment. It says, I think any discussion of issues needs to start with getting agreement on what the problem is before we talk about what is the solution. And absolutely, that is one of our tenets, is that we work from problems before we provide solutions. Cool. All right. So anybody else want to comment on how tonight went before we take a sort of poll? Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, I agree with Bill as well. And I think that the way we talk about issues is going to vary depending on whether we're in a more local venue or a statewide forum. So that's going to play into it as well.
100%. And not every issue is a statewide issue, and not every issue is a local issue. So we're going to have different quote unquote platforms for different areas based on what their issues are. And that's okay, right? Like we've always said that was okay. All right, if there's nobody else that has a burning comment at the moment, so let's just launch that third poll. How comfortable are you with the idea of expanding beyond election reform after this discussion tonight? And the answers are yes, very comfortable, somewhat comfortable, or not comfortable.
We have 9 votes. Looking for 2 more if you want to contribute.
It's 10. One more. Give it the 5-second countdown. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's close that. So I see somewhat comfortable, 7 votes, very comfortable, 3 votes. What that tells me is that any process we take has to be slow and determinative and considerate of others, and that not everybody's willing to charge forward and recklessly, and that's totally fine. I get that. So, what is our long-term vision? We're a new kind of party that takes positions, but we do so collaboratively, selectively, and transparently. Almost like I wrote this slide like I was expecting this answer, and that's okay. It just kind of works, doesn't it? But even so, that's exactly what we just told ourselves. And so confirmed that my initial thoughts. So thank you all. So just again, we're not choosing answers tonight. We're not choosing how we'll answer them together. We are choosing that we will answer them together, though. And that's really the most important step, is that we decided we do want to do something about this beyond election tonight. Tyler, can it wait till open questions? Cool. If this discussion, this stuff interests you, the Party Building Committee, of which myself and Colin are the members at the moment, is recruiting, and we'd love to have new members here. And Jeff and Alan and Michael and JE, you guys sound like you have some things to say, and I'd like to have you on the team to help us figure out where we go from here. And so I think I'm done, and I'll turn it over to Laura to finish us off.
All right. Well, if you do want to know more about us, obviously you can check out our website. Also, Bill Stewart is on the call, but we have his information here. Bill leads our volunteers committee and sits on the board, and is an excellent contact to get you directed into any way that you can help Maryland forward, and bring your skills and talent to what we're looking to achieve. All right, Bill, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just happy to have a conversation. Not there to sell you anything. If you've got questions, I'll just tell you what we're doing, where we need some help, and if something's interesting, get you in touch with the right people.
Great, thank you, Bill. And did just want to direct to Courtney's comment here that we do have some awesome forums. We do have forums happening on this Friday at 5:30. We're going to be doing a forum with all of our PG County candidates. And then on June 4th, we're also going to have our women's candidate forum. So we have several women that we have endorsed, and they are going to be speaking with us on June 4th. And then thank you very much, Courtney. A nice reminder here. If you are not registered to vote, or you are unaffiliated and you want to vote in the primaries, you have until June 2nd to update register by mail or online. That is really critical to having your voice heard in the primary, since particularly since unaffiliated candidates are not permitted in Maryland to vote. So appreciate you bringing that up. Also, our next meeting topic is still TBD, but I am looking to get these scheduled the third Wednesday of every month. So our next one will be June 17th, and we will get those details out shortly. And always feel free to invite somebody else to come to this meeting.
Thanks,
All
Laura.
right.
And absolutely, it's totally easy to register to vote as a party member online. I did it in about 30 seconds because I was unaffiliated, and we absolutely want everybody to vote in the primaries, because a lot of our candidates that we're endorsing are in the primaries, and so you should vote for those candidates or others of your choice. Okay, anything else? I think we're at questions now. So if you want to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we'll let everybody